everyone, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK, and I hope you're all doing well. And I've gone a little bit crazy, and this is going to be a big project, so it's probably going to take me some time, but I wanted to get it started. It's been in my head for a while, and the way I work is it stays in my head until it comes out my head. So it's actually gone 10 o'clock in the evening here in the UK, but I wanted to get this project started so at least it can be starting to cure. And as you can tell, it's going to be big. So I got this from Temu, which I've seen a few different ones, which is basically the 9 planets in different gemstones. So we've got picture stone, clear quartz for sodalite, red agate for Mars, Jupiter's tiger's eye, yellow jade for Saturn, Uranus is aventurine, Neptune is blue agate, and then tiny one is Pluto, which they've included in is amethyst, which we know Pluto is now a moon and not a planet, but beside the point. And what I wanted to do is create the universe. So in this video, we're going to create the universe out of resin using these. But the big thing that's missing is a sun, and the sun has to be the biggest. So it got me thinking, I've got this ball mold, why not make a sun? And I want to try this hopefully in 2 different ways. I'm going to be using deep pour resin for the whole project because I think it's going to be one of those projects that I'm either going to love and it's going to turn out amazing, or I'm going to hate. So I don't know. So I'm just getting my pigments because I'm going to try one of these in pigments, and I'm going to try one of them just using alcohol inks and see which one gives me a more sun-like effect for this first one. And that's going to be the first stage. As well as pouring the sky, I'm just figuring out what colours I want for this sun. So apologies, I should have had this done in advance. They should work. So, as I say, I've got 2 different ideas for these suns, and luckily there's 2 large ones in this particular mould, so I'm going to see which one I like the most. Where's my orange? Haha, there it is. Oh no, that's the green. You can never find the one that you want. It's always hiding somewhere. Do you ever find that when you're looking for your resins? Do you know what? Let's use a tiny bit of that in it. Now, this is all experimental, and I've never done this before. So I've mixed up precisely 450 milliliters of deep pour in my resiners mixer. When I do bigger pours, it's just easier that way, if I'm being honest. So there we go. That is my deep pour. Now, I was going to put it through my debubbler, but I don't think I'm going to. I don't think there's any need. I'm using deep pour in this, so hopefully any bubbles should go anywhere. In fact, no, I want it to be special. It's going in the debubbler. So luckily these medium-sized pots just fit in my resiners debubbler. So I'm just going to put it through there 5 minutes, nothing more. Then the idea is I'm going to try and half fill one of these. One with just alcohol inks, yellow, orange, and red, and give it a tiny swirl to see if that creates a sun-like effect. I don't know at this point. And then the other one, I'm going to use these 2 different yellows from Creating Bloom. So I've got Honeycomb, which is a lovely bright yellow, and I've got Bee's Nest, which is more of an orangey colour. I might still put a little bit of alcohol ink in that as well to bring out some reddish tones. I don't know yet, I might not. So this is all experimental. As I say, I've never even used this mold before, but we're going to see. I've got some mold release spray ready for the big one. I've got some holographic glitter as well to make a star-like effect in what's going to be black for the rest of the piece. And let me know what you think's going to happen. Now, my plan is, so with the first one, I want it all to be predominantly yellow. So I'm going to drip some dandelion yellow straight into the mold. And these 2, I think, are the biggest ones. So in we go. In fact, no, I'm going to wait for the resin because I don't want to leave them for any period of time on there. Because then the plan is, once I've done that, I'm going to half fill it. I'm going to drip some orange on and maybe just 1 drop of the red, mix them around a little bit and then leave it. Again, I don't know what will happen in deep pour. I've only ever done these effects with 1-to-1 resin before, so I don't even know if we're going to get the same effects or not. So it's going to be interesting. So I'll see you as soon as the resin's out of the debubbler. Right, we are back, and as you can see, that has pretty much made that deep cure resin crystal clear, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I'm not going to need a lot for this bit, and I've just created a little bit of space at the side so I can move this once I've done. So, the first one should be pretty straightforward, but I'm going to pour it in this smaller cup. I think half a cup is going to be enough to create this, but we'll see. I can always add more, I can't take any away. So, I've just put that right in there. Now, the idea is straight into, I think it's these two, so I'm going to double check. That one and that one are the two big ones. So I'm going to go with 3 drops straight in of this dandelion yellow. 2, 3, 4. 4 drops went in the end. Then I'm going to pour straight in, and that should just give us hopefully a bit of a yellow glow. And I'm guessing, oh no, not quite. I want it about halfway, which I think is there. Now I'm going to add some more yellow because I don't think that's yellow enough for my sun. Just on the surface, and hopefully that's enough now. And then what I'm going to do is get my silicone tool and just stir it around in there. So hopefully that yellow will fully tint that resin. I'm almost mixing it in the mold like that. And again, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to give me a sun. I don't even know if I'm going to like it, but I thought I'd have a go. Next, I've got the orange, hopefully to give us some fiery tones. 1, 2, and then I've also got a red. Now, I'm just going to put 1 drop of the red in because I don't want it to go pink. And then I'm just going to swirl those through from the top. So trying to go quite deep. Hopefully that'll create some kind of effect. And I don't know because it's deep pour as well. And I've never tried this kind of effect with deep pour. There's the risk that it may all just blend into one. So that is pretty much number 1. So for number 2, I'm going to mix predominantly honeycomb, I think, as the base color. Then I'm going to have 2 extra colors. And again, I know I'm not going to need a lot of this, but I want that honeycomb as the first one. So again, just going to get my cocktail stick for this, stir it around, scrape it off. And that should be more than enough in there to give us that honeycomb color. I don't know which one I'm going to prefer, so I thought I'd try both techniques because I'm only going to get 1 chance at making this sun. So there we go. First time I've used these pigments as well in a deep pour resin, but they seem to do pretty well. So that is my honeycomb. Now that's quite yellow. Next, I'm going to go in with some bee's nest, and then this is for my orange. So again, I'm not going to need a lot because there's not a lot of resin there. But I'm just going to take the tiniest bit, so scrape it off. Whatever's left on my stick, it'll be more than enough to just colour that. And again, mixing it around gives us that beautiful orangey colour. And then the next is my homemade orange, which always separates, but once you mix it back together, it seems to work really well, which was actually homemade with papaya and gold. So I'm just going to mix it around to mix it all up and mix it in. It's one of my favourite colours, this orange. And it is slightly different to that bee's nest, but it's got a bit more of a metallic-y sparkle. There we go. And whatever's on my stick can go in. And as you can see, there's going to be 3 different tones here, hopefully, if this works. So we've got our orange. I'm going to pour a bit of that straight into the honeycomb. Not too much. That'll be enough. And then a little bit of this bee's nest as well. Again, not a lot. Just enough to go through there and hopefully give us some different colours. Then all I'm going to do is swirl it around once or twice with my cocktail stick so it blends like so. And then I'm going to pour it and we're going to see which sun comes out the best. And we won't know for about 2 days. And again, just going to pour that straight in, hoping I've done enough. I think I have. I can always mix up a tiny bit more. I'm just looking now. And that one now is a little bit lower than the other. So I'm going to add a little bit of this in as well and a bit of this as well. And I think that should be about the same level. Then I'm just going to do exactly the same. Get my silicone tool and just move it around on the top. And I don't know if this will create anything like the effects you would get if you did it with 1-to-1 resin, but we're going to find out. And that is the beauty of it. Now I've got a tiny bit left in these cups, so I'm going to use that to actually fill a drip mold I've got at the side. Because if you know me, I hate wasting resin. Beautiful. Now that's full. So we can get rid of these, get these out the way, hopefully create a little bit of space. put the right lids back on the right thing. And hopefully in 2 days' time, we're going to have 2 different suns to look at and decide which one we like. But I also want to be able to get started on the main project in 2 days' time. So I'm just going to move these all out of the way. And then I can move the sun out of the way. And then hopefully we can get on with starting the universe as well. And that's going to be the fun part, I think. I hope. And do me a favor, whilst you're here, if you're liking any of my content, or if you're learning anything from any of my videos, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's completely free, but it does help support the channel. And up to 82% of you don't. So if all of you did, we'd be growing at a much faster rate and we'd be doing a lot more of these projects. So do me a favor, whilst you're here, hit the subscribe. And if you can, well, we've had memberships open for a little while as well, which basically means as well as supporting the channel by becoming a member, I'm just going to move these to the side as well. You also basically get entered into a prize draw every month to win a piece of my art shipped to you wherever you are in the world. So it's a great little thing. It's a great way to keep the community growing as well. And all you need to do, go in the description, click the link for join membership. It's as straightforward as that. So I'm going to try very carefully, he says, just move these to the side and they should cure at the same rate as this big one, hopefully. Now, a couple of things I'm going to do with this. I'm going to use the LTRS for this, the LTRS Midnight Black, just to colour this, hopefully in a beautiful black colour. So again, just using a bigger stirring stick this time, stirring it around, and that should be more than enough just to pigment all of that. If anything, it's probably too much. And I'm just looking actually at this sun, and I think the inks are starting to settle. So I think we're going to prefer, I think it's going to be too red, the alcohol ink one, but we'll see. I think we're going to prefer the other. I don't know. We're going to find out. But here we go. Just going to mix that around until we get a beautiful, glossy, shiny black. And again, it's the same with deep pour as you want to one. You want to make sure it's all mixed right so you don't have any streaks. You want it to be a consistent, thick, opaque colour. It's the first time I've used on this scale, but it's looking beautiful. Look at that jet black. Now, I thought to myself, do I want it to just be jet black? And the answer to that is no. I want to create some stars in it. So I've got some silver holographic laser glitter from Resiners, which I've used before, and it's created a subtle star-like effect. So I'm going to put a few scoops of that in as well. Not too much. I think for this amount, I'm only going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And that should just give us some subtle stars in there because I'm planning to do a lot to this, hopefully. This is just that base layer. So again, I'm going to mix the red glitter through there as well, because we all know glitter is life when you're into resin. And I used to hate glitter if you go back and watch my earlier videos, but I've actually really grown into my glitters. And I think they can give you a cool effect. And look at that. Already looks like little stars in a universe. And then the first part of this is going to be so straightforward. You're not going to believe how simple it is. So before I pour though, whenever I do a big project like this, I just want to make sure that although this one, it shouldn't really matter because we're doing it from the base up. In fact, I've already wiped it once, so I don't think I'll need the silicone release spray. So I'm just going to go for it and I'm going to pour. Hopefully there's enough here to just give us that nice base layer all the way to the edges. And I want it quite thin, which this is. Now, any big bits of glitter, you can either leave them as they are to create like a constellation, or you can just move it around in the mold, which I like to do because I don't like them too concentrated in one area for this to work. But I am going to make sure it's going all the way to the edge, just going around that edge all the way. And it is like water deep pour, and I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's enough glitter, enough dark black. So I think that's pretty much it. Now all we need to do is wait 2 days, and then we can start on the next bit, which isn't even going to be the planets yet. I want to do something else to this first. And obviously it will depend on those suns, how they turn out. So we're going to come back in 2 days' time. This should have cured then this layer. So should the suns. Then we're going to be able to demold those and get on with the other planets. I'll see you in a bit. Hey everyone, and we're back, and it's been just under 2 days. And as you can see, that has beautifully cured. We've got that black background stop building on now with that holographic silver laser glitter as the stars. So I'm really happy with that. But what I want to see really is how these suns have turned out. It's going to be interesting, I think. So we're just going to demold. So that's the first one. And although it's really pretty, I think that's too red for a sun, especially when you put it against the black background. So I don't like that for a sun. Let me know if you agree in comments. But I do like the shape of it, and it's certainly bigger. And I love the back of it where you can just see those different colors pulling in with the alcohol ink. So I like it, but I don't think it will do for what I'm after. So I'm hoping the second sun is going to turn out better. Oh, that is more of a sun color to me. I think the color I was looking for, again, size-wise, it's about perfect. So I think the plan is, let me get the other planets. So the plan is, I don't want them all over the place. I really like solar systems when you can see the planets in a line. And I was going to do the sun in the center and then do them around as if they're going in orbit, but I changed my mind. So the plan is, I want these planets going along here in a diagonal line. I want a big galaxy here and another one here with the planets all going up like that in a diagonal line. I think that'll look great. Maybe a few shooting stars or going around it. But I found, if you look at the tiger's eye for Jupiter, one of the things that was really cool is, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's almost that spot. And that to me looks like the red spot of Jupiter. So I'm really happy with that one. The one I'm not happy about is Saturn, which is this yellow jade. And the reason why, you can't have Saturn without having those rings that we all know about. So I think the next stage, before we go on with doing the galaxies and everything else, is to get Saturn looking like Saturn. And I'm going to use UV for that part, I think, and then try and get those rings going around him so that when he's on there, and I'll give you an idea of what the plan is at this point, is basically we're going to have all of these planets in the right order, going across the piece in sort of a diagonal line, which I'm hoping they'll stay in place a little bit more once the resin is in, or the next layer. So this is just giving you a bit of an idea of what I'm picturing in my head. Pluto's obviously going to be the furthest away. And before any science buffs get involved and say Pluto's a moon, I know, but it's come in the set, so I'm going to leave it in the set. So this is the plan, anyway, is to have these going diagonally. I think they're the wrong order. So we are going to have rings on Saturn, which will be pretty central, which I think will be cool. Now, this is just me getting an idea in my head, and I love that tiger's eye for Jupiter, but I want that spot. So it almost is very similar to the spot that we get on Jupiter, just there. And again, spacing-wise, I'm not going to be too fussed. As long as I can get them all on here, and it doesn't look too congested, I'll be happy. And I love the fact that they're all different sizes depending on the planet. There's Earth. Everyone give us a wave. And again, even that, I do think if I get it the right way round, it does look like it. Don't forget, they will roll. Hopefully when the resin's in, not quite so much. So Mars. Let's all have a laugh at Uranus. We know that is the comedy planet ever since it came out on The Simpsons. So there's Earth. I like Earth there. And then we should just have these two. Oh, where's Mercury? Come on, Mercury. And that's obviously going to be the closest to the sun. So this is the general idea. So we're going to have the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and Jupiter, Saturn, once I've sorted the rings, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto going across there. Big galaxy here. I'm probably going to experiment a little bit with some alcohol inks as well with the sun, just to give us a few flames or solar bursts coming off it, and probably a few shooting stars. So we're going to get to the next part now. So I'm going to put these planets away, with the exception of Saturn. And again, I love how that does actually look like the landmass and the blue, which is sodalite, the rock. Mars is very red, which is cool. We'll leave Saturn out, as we said, but I hope you agree that that just looks better for this effect. Though it does look cool. So part of me's changed my mind. I'm going to use it in something else, that's for sure. And then I've got my sun. So I'm going to move this out the way temporarily while we get the UV on and whilst we sort these rings out for Saturn. I've got a few ideas and we'll go with whichever one works. But I want the rings to be coming all the way around the side so that when it's there, you see those beautiful rings hopefully coming out. But I don't want it to go too much higher than that sun. And I think I've judged the sun about perfectly, actually, size-wise. So I'm happy with that. Let me know what you think in comments. I'm going to move this, we're going to get the UV light out, and we're going to create those rings for Saturn. So we're back, and I thought, what am I going to use as a mold for these rings? So I got this jewelry mold, I've cleaned out this one, and I think that, for me, is about the right size for these rings. Just looking at where that sits, if I get this about to there, I think we're going to have some really cool rings. And I'm just going to play. So I've got some tiny Turner pigments, not too many, but I do want this to be special. I don't even know if this is going to work. Make sure I keep the lids with the right colors. But I just think this will give those rings another dimension. And I've just randomly picked out 5 colors. Look at that one. Beautiful. And I may use these in other parts of the project as well, just to see if it gives us anything different. This blood red's a really dark one. I don't know why I picked that one, but we'll see. Got a cloth at the ready as well. And all I'm going to do, I've got some Apex UV resin. Initially, I don't want a lot in there, and the sun is shining behind me, so I don't want this to be too thick because I want to be able to manipulate it as well in a minute. And the resin will move unless you're careful. So I'm pretty happy. That's about halfway, and I can always trim it down with some scissors. But the main thing I'm wanting is that sort of circumference initially going around like that. And now it's going to be really fun, hopefully. I'm just going to use my silicone tool. And let's start with this one. I'm going to grab some on the end and just pull some through. Hopefully some lines of colour. So I don't want any big blobs, but I do want the colours all to sort of intermix. And again, create a special effect, hopefully. Then I'm going to wipe off my stick. So that was that one. Now this really bright pink one as well. And each one of these I'm hoping will give us a slightly different effect when they're sort of layered. And I've never tried these in this way, but it looks like they're giving us a cool effect, which I'm happy about. I just don't want any clumps. That was the pink. Let's go with the purpley one. Have a bit of that going through it as well. And again, I think this will just add an extra dimension to these rings. And they don't need to look like perfectly straight rings, as long as they look like rings. And what I might do is just encourage it out a little bit, just to make it a bit wider. And then we can always trim them down to fit. But remember, UV is still resin, so it's going to be trying to pull in together at this point. But I'm liking this effect. Which one haven't I got in with? The wicker, which is a beautiful goldy greeny one. And I think that'll be the last one for me. Don't want to overdo it, but I do want some cool colors. And what I might do is just intermix them like this. And now I'm just focusing really on the shape. And I'm looking at the ball for inspiration, or the planet. And now I'm just trying to make sure the thickness is going to be the same all the way around, and we'll see. And then it's just going to be a case of curing this and seeing what it looks like. May have to trim a few bits off, but that's okay. So there we go, that's done. UV lamp straight over it, and we'll see what happens. And I might even prefer the other side, I don't know. So we're just going to let it cure, and then we're going to look at it in relation to this planet and see if those rings look good or not. I've got another idea if I don't think it looks good, but it shouldn't take long to cure because it's not very thick. It's literally, as you saw, a few drops maneuvered around the mold, and I think that will give us enough to just create these rings. But again, whilst you're here, do me a favor, if you're liking the content, if you're liking these crazy projects, and subscribe to the channel. It's free for you, and 82% of you don't. If you did, we'd grow a lot quicker. And we could do a lot more of these projects. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And apart from that, if you can, join memberships. It's a great way to support us, and it allows me to keep investing in new products to show you. I think that's going to be cured. Feels like it. Now I'm just going to demold it. And we have got a bit of a thin ring. And I'm pretty happy with that. Look at that. Just using those tiny turners. Which side do I prefer? I think I prefer this one. Now let's test it for size. It's not quite there. Needs a little bit of trimming, I think. And it needs to be a little bit longer, doesn't it? I don't know. What do you think? They look like rings. They're not perfect, but they do look like rings. And I think if I have that at an angle, just like that, I think it's going to look pretty cool. You know, it's not far off. I don't think I want to undo this. I think I just want to secure it now, because that on its side, I don't think is far off. But what I do want to do is just straighten these edges out. And don't forget, anything clear, you probably won't see. So you'll just see those amazing colors going around. And now the fun bit, which way around do I want to secure them? Pretty happy with that. I was toying around with using Daniel Cooper's resin paper technique, but I don't think I need to for this because most of it's going to be covered. And I want these to still stay quite straight. So just being a little bit careful. Where's my scissors? I'm just going to trim that little bit off the edge. So there's a little tiny bit on the inside that I didn't want. Should still be pliable enough to just trim it with my scissors. I think that'll do. So now I'm just going to go for it. Whatever's going to be, and I think it will just look better than having no rings at all. So I'm going to put some UV resin just on that inside all the way around. Make sure I've got my lamp reasonably close. And again, I'm not worried about any blobs or anything like that, because what's going to happen, hopefully, is once that is secured on, and I do want to keep it halfway, this is going to be the fun bit, but hopefully anything that spills or anything like that can be fixed, because you shouldn't be able to see it. Wow, this is really not working to plan. Things I do for you guys. Now, I just want enough on there so that it actually just sticks to that rock. So I'm pretty happy. I can always maneuver it a little bit, I think, once it's cured. Let's just try and cure those two bits onto there. I can solidify it in a minute. Has that done it? It has. Like that. So as you can see, that's just solidified it a little bit. And now you see that gap. I'm not particularly happy about that. I'm just going to put this down for a second. I'm going to have a look at what it's going to look like. Oh. And now I've just unmaneuvered it. So I need to put a bit more resin on. A little tiny drop. I'm going to just fix it in the center this time. Trial and error when you try new things with resin. Happy with that. Ish. Well, that's now solidified, but it's not quite halfway. Let's take it off. I want it to be halfway, so it needs to go a bit further up. Now that should give it a little bit more something to grip onto. And it's just hard when you can't get it to just stand exactly where you want. But hopefully just by having that thin layer of UV now, it's going to help us get this to attach so that we can work on the rest. There we go. Again, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm just going to maneuver it a little bit with my fingers. There, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks like a ring. Reasonably comfortable. It's about halfway. So I'm just going to put a little tiny dab of resin on that inside bit. So that should really secure it. Using my silicone tool now just to maneuver it around this edge. And I'm hoping that this UV resin will go completely clear when it's submersed in the resin. But there we go. We've now got rings around Saturn. They look pretty cool. Am I overly happy with them yet? No. So I do want a bit of whiteness to them, but not just white. So I'm going to put one more layer of resin just on the ring itself. Again, just a thin layer, doesn't have to be thick. And I do want an element of whiteness to them, just because I think naturally in the solar system you get that. So I've got some iridescent blue powder at the side of me. I'm just going to get some of that and dab it, same as we did with those tiny turners, and just go around. And I think it'll give it a more galactic look, hopefully. And then I want to make sure it's reasonably even all the way around. Get any heavier bits, I really want them at the ends. And I've only got one shot at this, guys, because I've only got one Saturn. So this could all go horribly wrong. Here we go, let's cure it now, before I change my mind. Don't forget, this is all going to be submerged resin, so what it's going to look like when that happens, I don't know. But I'm pretty happy. That's now all fully cured and attached. And now Saturn has a ring going around it. And I'm going to probably do this at a bit of an angle, I think, on the actual, if I can just bend those rings down a little bit. There. I think I'm happy with that. What do you think? Does it look a bit more like Saturn? That is the question. I'm just going to wipe off some of this excess because, again, I don't want excess on there. And then I'm going to cure the underside. That was just where a bit dripped through and I hadn't cured the underside. So again, just curing that. Hopefully you won't see that once it's got resin going over the top. Don't know. There we go. So that is now going to be our Saturn. I still think it looks pretty cool. Doesn't look perfect, but again, hopefully any mistakes I've made will be covered when we put this in with the rest of the planets and put it in the resin, which is the next job. So I'll see you in a second. But if you want a bit of a close-up of what Saturn is looking like, we've got those rings going around it now. And I just think it makes it look a little bit more like Saturn should do with those rings. And I love the effect. Tiny turners, bit of the blue iridescent powder as well. So I'm going to mix up some resin and we'll be right back. So here we go, guys, and I've sped this bit up because otherwise this will be a 6-hour video. So all I'm doing here is thinking about where I want these planets to go, and then I'm going to arrange them in the right order. I want Saturn's rings to be visible though, so I'm thinking about that, getting these 9 planets out, and the plan is to just use a bit of UV resin to secure these planets in position. Now, I thought about starting with the sun in the center and have the planets going around it, but I quite like the idea of having them in a straight line. For me, I just think it adds to the effect. So what I'm going to do is position these 9 planets where I want them, roughly to get the spacing. Then I'm going to use a bit of UV resin on the underside of them and position the planets exactly where I want them, and then cure that resin before I start putting another layer in. And there we go, pretty happy with those, got them in the position that I want. So I've just mixed up some fast cure resin from Apex, and this is going to be the first layer of putting these galaxies in. So I've got 3 separate pots to the side of me, which I'm going to fill with some of this resin, just to get the different colours for these galaxies. And I'm thinking about having a pink galaxy and a blue galaxy. Now these work best if you do them in layers, and I've had some real success with using some iridescent powders as well. So that is going to be the plan, hopefully. So just separating some of that resin so we can start off with these galaxies, and then the rest of it I'm just going to tip in the whole thing. So this is a yellow I've got. In fact, we're going to do the sun first. Apologies, I'm doing this as voiceover, Andy, as you may have noticed. So we're going to do the sun first. I'm going to use this golden ember bloom drops from Create & Bloom. I've got a homemade orange pigment paste, and I've also got another pigment paste from Create & Bloom. So this first layer is just going to be about putting that sun in, and I didn't want it to just stay as a circle. I wanted it to have almost solar flares coming off the sun like you'd get in nature. So this is that honeycomb pigment paste, which is a lovely yellow. And you'll have to excuse my reflection in this piece. And I know I was naughty. I didn't have my mask on. Always wear your respirator, guys. I just thought this was a quick pour and then I was going to be out the house. So I thought I could get away with it. I did have my pure air switched on, which was filtering the air. But again, always use your respirator. So there we go. That's those 2 colours intermixed. Next, I've got some really fine, almost golden and orange glitter. So I'm just going to add a tiny scoop of that as well. And it already looks to me a bit like a sun. I'm loving those colours intermixing together. So that is hopefully what's going to create this sun. And then we can get on with these galaxies as well. So this is my homemade orange pigment paste, which was made with papaya mica powder and a lovely gold mica powder. And look at that, beautiful. So again, I'm just going to intermix that in there as well, because actually the more these colours intermix and give us slightly different shades, I think the better it's going to look. There we go. And whilst you're here, guys, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference and it makes these huge projects worthwhile. So just do me a favour, whilst you're here, like and subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you do want to support us a bit more, consider joining memberships. It gives you early access to every piece of my content. And in addition to that, you go into a monthly prize draw to win a piece of my art. So now I'm just getting some iridescent colours out. And also a pigment paste. So this is a pink zinnia from Creating Bloom, which is going to be one of the colours that I'm going to use for this pink galaxy. I'm just going to mix it in. Whatever's left on my stick will do. And look at that. That's really bright and vivid, which is what I wanted for this galaxy. Always wipe your stick, guys. And then I've got a little bit of pink chameleon powder, which I just think would add something to it. So it's not just a plain pink pigment paste. And then the last ingredient I'm going to put in for this pink is some pink iridescent powder, which I got from Laura's Art Corner, which I think was Tutti Frutti. And this first layer that we're going in with, it's all about, before we want to get to the effects, that'll come in the next layer. And these galaxies work by adding layers. So here we go, just going to put a sprinkle of it in, and then we're going to mix it all together and see what colour it makes. And again, I want these to be intermixed, so it doesn't matter if there's slightly lighter, slightly darker bits. I just want them all to be mixed together like this. And then these are going to create the background colour for those galaxies. So that's that one. Pretty happy with that. And now I want another galaxy on the other side. So again, I think I'm going to go with blue for this because I've done a blue galaxy before in a galaxy bowl and it turned out stunning. So my first colour I'm going to put in is this blue metallic pigment paste. And it's just one from Temu. It was a cheap one, but it's one of my favourite metallic blues. And look at that beautiful, rich, dark, metallic colour. But again, I wanted to add something to give it a bit of a shimmer. And hopefully give it a bit of a sparkle and a shine to help create that galaxy effect. So I've got some blue iridescent powder from Temu, which I use in a lot of blooms, which I really like. And I'm just going to add some of that to this. And I've got some blue chameleon as well. So I'm going to put some of that in there as well. Why not? I'm only going to make this piece once. I want it to be special. So that is that blue chameleon powder. And this is the blue iridescent powder that I got from Temu. Didn't realise how much you would actually see my face in this video. But of course, I'm using black resin. So I hope you don't mind, guys. And here we go. I'm just going to mix these together as well. And hopefully they're going to create the background colour for the blue galaxy. And as you can see, the iridescent powder, it does slightly lighten the colour as well, which I think will actually work in this galaxy. So we've now got the colour mixed for the sun. We've got the colour mixed for the pink galaxy background and the blue galaxy background. Always wipe your stick. I'm just going to move these out. And again, apologies for the, it looks like a cluttered workspace, but it's how big this piece is. It takes up the whole of my workspace. So those planets are already UV'd in. And now I'm just going to put the rest of this clear resin around the whole piece, hoping that I get an even thin layer covering the whole piece. And I'm using the 2.5 hour curing resin here so that in 2.5 hours, I can come back and do another layer. Always scrape whatever's left in your pot out as well. There's no point leaving it in your pot. You might as well put it in your piece. And now I'm just helping move the resin with my spatula just to make sure it gets an even coat. Now your resin will self-level, so it's just spreading it around with that spatula, hopefully getting an even coat everywhere, including between those planets. All the way to the edge. And don't worry, it's not going to be voice over Andy for much of this video. Normal Andy is going to be back shortly. I know some of you prefer him to voice over Andy. Now I'm just going to tilt it from side to side, again just helping that resin spread and giving me a nice even coat. Ignore the reflection in the background, but you can just see those planets sticking out as well. I think they're going to turn out stunning in this piece. Now just going to let it self-level for a second and start thinking about where I want those galaxies and where the sun's going. So I'm going to get the colours that we mixed for the sun first, and I'm going to pour some of it straight where I want the sun. So I can just put the sun straight on top of it, and then that's going to cure it into this piece. But the only piece that I haven't cured in using the UV resin. But because I'm doing it in layers, I know that this is going to firmly attach it so that it's not going to float anywhere when I come back with the next layer. And I think that'll be enough. But I'm just going to get my silicone tool now and pull it out a little bit and make some shapes. And I decided I wanted a bit more of those bloom drops in there as well, just to add a bit more variety to it, because all of the colours mixed together. And I thought this might just help create that solar flare look. So as you can see, I'm just pulling it out into sort of flame effects around the sun. And now I'm just going to place that sun, hopefully reasonably centrally. Like that. And then I'm just going to get some bloom drops and put some over the top of the sun. So hopefully when they dry, we're going to have a slightly different finish on the surface of the sun. And now I'm just going to use that silicone tool, maneuver it around a little bit, and hopefully create us a bit of differentiation between the colours. And I think it really adds to the sun effect. Again, just painting it around with my silicone tool, hopefully just creating those different shades so that once we fill this with resin, you'll see the different shades of the sun coming through. And now we're going to start off with the blue galaxy. And all I'm going to do is pour a decent amount in where I want that galaxy roughly. And then I'm going to start moving it around in a spiral effect with my silicone tool. And the same for the pink. I did want them opposite each other because I just thought it would look good in the universe finish piece. And as you can see, it's all about the angle here as you pull it out. And I'm just almost going around in this spiral effect. And as you can see, it's moving that resin around, moving the pigment around and creating those little circular, I suppose, spirals. Probably going to need to add some more, and in fact I do, because this has to be the darkest layer, because this is going to be the base layer which we're going to build on with lighter layers on top, which will make more of that galaxy. And I'm loving the way that this looks already. And just keep going until you're happy with the way it looks. It's as simple as that. And now do exactly the same for the pink. I thought I'd go in a slightly different direction though for the pink. Again, just add in a bit more. And around we go. But I'm pretty happy with that. For a first layer, I think we're about there. I'm going to let this cure now. Just torching it first to get rid of any bubbles off the surface. Then we're going to come back in 2.5 hours and do the next layer, which will be exactly the same as this. The only thing is I'm going to add more of those iridescent powders to both. I'm going to speed it up so it's not a 6-hour video and do exactly the same process. So here we go, guys, in what is hopefully going to be the final layer. So I've just mixed up some, just cleaning off this silicone paddle. And I used the manual mixer from Resiners. When you're doing 300 ml of resin, it does make the job a little bit easier. So I didn't think I was going to use it, if I'm being completely honest, because I've got the electric ones. But if you're just doing a small bit and you don't want to get your electric one out, it works a treat. And you can just let the resin cure on these and then peel it off. But I think eventually it'll break down the silicone. So I'd much rather just wipe it off whilst I'm doing it. There we go. So the idea here is I want to create some little asteroids in there as well as finishing these galaxies off. And I've got this obsidian rock, which to me is beautiful, shiny. Look at those. And they look like little meteorites to me. So I'm just going to add some of those into the resin. So quite a few. And then we can just scatter those around willy-nilly and hopefully have some little clusters of asteroids going around this piece as well in this final layer. I just thought it would add a little bit of interest that would add to another dimension in this piece and make it a little bit more 3D. So that is those. Just going to mix those around with a little stick so that they're all beautifully covered in that resin. And look at these. Already looks like little asteroids. So I thought that would just add an extra dimension. And then obviously what I want to do is mix up the colors. Now for this one, I want it to be really light. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of the dark though. I think, for each of these, just to create, I suppose, a bit of depth in the piece is what I'm looking for. But the main ones are going to be just white, I think, whitish looking anyway. So let's grab the Razzle Dazzle, which is from Laura's Art Corner. And I am going to go a decent sized scoop here because I want this to be mainly almost like white clouds. And I don't want that to happen over my piece. Let's just add quite a bit of this. I'm going to go with 2 scoops of this Razzle Dazzle. And as you can see, it's a white powder, but it's got that pink iridescence. There we go. And then I need to clean off my glove so it doesn't go absolutely everywhere. And luckily it didn't go all over the piece. How I manage that, I don't know. But look at this Razzle Dazzle when you wipe it off. It's almost a pinky gold. I am deciding whether or not to add a drop of white to that as well. Depends what it will look like when it's mixed. But look at that. Beautiful stuff. So that's that one. And then I've got the blue iridescent powder, obviously, that we used as well, all the way throughout. And again, I'm going to go quite heavy with this. I want a good couple of scoops, heaped scoops, I would say. And that is what I didn't want to happen, guys. Well, that might look pretty cool as just a solar explosion, but I'm going to wipe it off before I pour in the resin. This is like a blue one. This is what happens when you're very limited by space. You start making silly mistakes like that. So I'm just going to get a wipe and wipe it off. No need to panic. Mica powders will wipe off. Yes. Come on. And I'm glad I haven't poured that resin in yet. If a little bit stays on there and the resin carries it round, I don't actually think it will cause me a problem. If anything, it might just add to the effect that we're trying to create. So just trying to get it off, especially off my planets. I don't want it on there. And they're well secured in now, actually. There we go. Just getting rid of it. Come on. Oh dear. Always goes wrong when you film as well. I could do 20 projects and not film, and this wouldn't happen. As soon as I switch a camera on, it happens. So there we go, just wiping off the excess. Hopefully that won't cause us a problem. And then still a tiny bit around this planet. So and just going around the base and cleaning it off. And as I say, if a touch does go in there, I'm not overly concerned. Right, so there's those two. Now for the darker colours, again, I'm going to use just a tiny bit of this mica from Let's Resin for the pink. And then for the blue, I'm going to go back in with the dark metallic, I think, this time. And again, just the tiniest of bits, just to give us another little bit of depth, because we're building those layers up. And I'm hoping, once this one's done, it will be my final layer before I add the clear. But I don't know at this point. Again, just taking my stick, stirring it around, and whatever's left is left. So this will hopefully give us a bit more depth in the piece. And again, it's only the tiniest of bits, just mixing it around. So look at that compared to that now. I think it'll look cool. And I don't want much of that. I'm just going to have maybe 1 or 2 swirls of it going through. So let's move that to one side. Let's grab these. This is that dark fuchsia colour. Again, for the pink, look at that as a contrast now. So again, it's just going to add hopefully a little bit of depth. And then this is that Razzle Dazzle. As you can see, it's just a white paste with a really cool iridescent glow. So that's cool. It's what I want. Beautiful. So we've got these 4 colours, hopefully mixed. This is the blue. Again, just a beautiful blue iridescent powder. Look at that. So as you can see, they're almost white, and that's what's hopefully going to create that galaxy style look. Don't know at this point. Anything could happen. So let's go in with the rest of the resin. And I don't mind it going over these planets, giving them another quick coating whilst we're here. And then all the way around, so that there is that thin layer of resin all the way around the piece. And these are going to get completely submerged as well when we're done. So hopefully the surface will just come up to that outer ring of Saturn when we're done. But look at the beautiful shine on them. I'm really happy with that so far anyway. So without further ado, let's get this universe made. So I'm just gonna, again, tilt it slightly so the resin all moves. So again, when I do this, it's trying to prevent any potential fish eyes or anything like that, just by making sure we've got a good even surface layer before we go in with any kind of patterns, and just going all the way around that piece before we bring the bulk of the resin back into the center. I'm pretty happy that that is now even. So I'm going to put it on the way that we're actually going to have this looking. And then we're just going to go for it. Just going to, first of all, get rid of any surface bubbles that might be there. Again, it should help it self-level as well. But I'm loving the way that these planets look. So the first bit I'm going to do is the dark for each. And I just want a little tiny bit of this dark and tiny in the center of each. I think that'll be enough. And then again, the same with this blue one. And you can really see the color difference that we've already built up now, comparing the two. And then, like before, just going to grab a silicone tool, start in that center, working my way out and just giving it a bit of extra depth of color. Again, I want to work it all the way around though, hopefully, and create these wispy effects going around and just creating that extra depth. So what I'm going to do is get a piece of this as well on the end of my silicone tool and bring it in the other way around as well. And this is hopefully just going to help blend the whole thing together. So that is going to be the last layer of this dart. And again, it is quite a dark color in contrast to what we've already got. But hopefully you can just see it is creating a bit more depth in the colors of this galaxy, which is what I want. And it's your galaxy, so just keep going with it. You've got to be happy with it. If you're not happy, just keep going. And you can always do another layer. One of the things I love about this is you're not done until you say you are. There we go. We've got some beautiful depth there, I think, in the blue. Now let's try and do the same with the pink. And this is a really different color now because of how light we've gone. But again, just keep on going around, always trying to bring it back into that center and then just go around again, the whole thing. And it's going to give us very different tones, hopefully, in this galaxy. And I want a little bit more of the dart. And then I'm going to go around and back in. So around and back in. And then move it around and then back in. And hopefully, just as I say, it's creating a bit more depth in these galaxies for us to look at when we've done the final piece. And I'm loving those differences in color. Might just add a few more little rings going around the outer edge as well of this slightly darker shade. And I think it's just going to add, especially when we add the light in a minute. And again, I'm just going to move it all around into that center. There we go. I'm happy that's got some good depth and I'm happy that the dark has as well. So before I go in with the rest of the galaxy, I just want to start getting these asteroids in as well, which, as you can see, they're just extra bits of this resin. And I'm not going to do it in any particular pattern. Just want to move them around, especially around the sun, maybe creating a bit of an asteroid belt, perhaps going out from the sun into the rest of the piece. And again, let's spread them all around so it's not just in one place. Let's have a few along the galaxy as well. There we go. Some of them actually going into it. Most of them just going around. Same over here. Again, just surrounding this galaxy. These little asteroids. And again, I'm not too fussed about where they go. I just want them to be dotted around and to do their own thing. I think the more haphazard you put them in, the better it's going to look. But I especially wanted them to go just around this sun to create a bit of depth in that sun. Again, just mixing them around. Hopefully we'll see more of them when the piece is cured. And I can always add more in another layer if I wanted to. So that's that. I'm going to save that pot because I've got another idea as well. And now where I've added those, I'm just going to go over it again, just making sure that any bubbles are popped from where we've introduced them. And now hopefully the fun part, which is going to be these lighter colors. And this is going to take a little bit of time. Make sure you use the right one. So this is the blue, and I'm going to pour quite a bit into that center. And I'm going to do the same with the pink, or the razzle dazzle, as it were. You can see that color contrast already. And then it's the same thing. So first of all, I'm going to work it out and just work it around the whole piece, hopefully. And by doing it, you're creating these swirls, which hopefully when they're all cured are going to look a bit like a galaxy, is the hope. Now, obviously some of it will be mixing as well with the dark. That is fine. Just going to add some more bits as well around the edges in particular, because that's where I've not got all the way out to yet. There we go. Happy with that. And then again, I'm going to start at the out and just bring it all in, getting finer as I go in and then wider as I go out in this galaxy. And I don't want any big blobs. Just wanted to create hopefully a beautiful swirly effect going around. We'll come back to that in a second after we've done the pink. Right, let's see what this razzle dazzle does. Is it going to razzle dazzle me? And again, just moving it all the way. out to the edge gradually. And hopefully this is going to create a real depth in these galaxies, is the plan. I'm just going to do the same as we did with the blue and just get some of this razzle dazzle around the edge as well. Nowhere in particular, just so we've got some going around as well, all the way out to this outer rim, and then another bit in the center. And this is all your judgment, guys. So you'll know when you're done, when you're happy. So again, just moving it around. And the last thing I want is any big blobs in this. So again, just keep on moving it around. So it thins the whole thing out, and then go back in again. And then out again. It's quite therapeutic. But I'm loving the different shimmer that razzle dazzle is giving us in the galaxy. And now I'm just going to do again. Lovely. Now I'm just weighing up with this blue. I think I do want a little bit more. So again, I'm going to start by adding it into that center. And there's no right or wrong. This is your galaxy. Make it your way. If you wanted to leave it that bright, you could do. Personally, I'm not going to, because I think it's not quite right for me if I do that. And then a bit more of this razzle dazzle in the center there. And if you do that, like I've just done, and you get a drip, don't stress. Just get some kitchen roll or your white and take it out. Simple as that. I didn't want that in there. Right, come on. Let's get this galaxy done. I want a little bit more. Again, keep going out to the outer edge, because that's what's going to give you an even look. And I'm loving that. I think maybe a few more. I'm going to come in this time. And I think when you come in, it creates a slightly different effect than it does going out. I'm liking it. One more out. And every time you're doing this, you're just adding almost tiny little rings going around. And it's the way that you're moving the resin that's hopefully going to create that beautiful galaxy effect that you're looking for. So there's that. And now let's go for the pink, or the razzle dazzle as it were, and just move it around again. No particular pattern. Whatever you want will work. And just moving it around, creating those beautiful rings, hopefully going around the whole galaxy. And I'm loving the way that pink's looking now. I wasn't sure on it, if I'm being honest, at first, but these extra layers are just really adding some depth, I think, to that galaxy. I think I want a little touch more of the blue. Make sure I put the right color in the right piece. And as you can see, you're just building it up gradually. Oh, that's enough. And then again, I'm going to go quite vigorous this time. So I want to spread it all the way out around the galaxy. And then do the same the opposite way around. And then one more, I think, to just spread it out fully. And then one more coming in. Beautiful. And hopefully, as that cures, it'll all blend a tiny bit more. Now, the razzle dazzle one, I'm not sure if I should add any more, because I quite like that the way it is. Maybe just a drop in the center. So this is something I like to do when I think the galaxy's almost finished, is just add a tiny drop in that center. And that'll just give us a bit of more depth. It's almost like the star in the center of your galaxy, I suppose. Again, just mix it around a little bit so it doesn't look too perfect and natural. I think that looks beautiful. So I'm not going to do anything else with that. And then again, the same with the blue. I'm just going to add a tiny drop into the center now. It's got almost that focal point going through. Doesn't need to be very big, because don't forget, this is all going to be in comparison to your planets as well. And just mixing it around. And that should be our focal point, hopefully. So what I'm going to do now, just have a bit of fun. It's always a bit worrying when I say have a bit of fun. Normally when something goes wrong. There we go. And I can see there's a little bit of something there, but I'm not going to move that. I think it looks pretty cool. Now, my last idea was to just do some little almost shooting star effects with a little bit of glitter. So I'm going to get some holographic silver glitter, and I'm just hoping I've got enough in here. I should have, just to coat it a little bit. And this is the same glitter that I used in that base layer, which is the Resiners silver holographic one. And I'm just going to pour a tiny bit into what I've got left in this cup of this resin, and I'm going to mix it around and hopefully create some shooting stars or something similar to that. There we go. Not a lot, but just enough so that hopefully it's going to show up. And let me know what you're thinking of this universe so far. I'm loving it. I think it's looking great. Here we go. Let's pour the rest of this resin in. I've still got a drop in here. And then I think these are the tiny little bits that if you just take your time and add them, it will really add to the overall piece, hopefully. And it's just using those last drops of this resin as well. There we go. And this is just going to almost create some shooting stars, hopefully, or some comets or something like that, just to add a little bit more intrigue as we're going around. So again, I'm just mixing that glitter around with the resin, and then I'm going to use my silicone tool and just get a little drop of it on the end and hopefully pull it through where I want. I'm just going to get some on the end and just put it in, pull it through like that. They haven't all got to be going the same direction. They can go exactly where they want, or they can be going around this galaxy. Who knows? I just think it adds another dimension to this space piece. And again, it'll be another layer just going through this galaxy, hopefully creating an extra effect going around. Let me know what you think. I don't want too much of this, but again, I want it to have an effect. And I hope that's not a hair. I've just spotted something. We'll see. And then what I might do, just to add almost a smaller galaxy, is just get some of it and do the same as what we've just done here. And that's just in that glitter. And let's have another one as a focal point, just to be beautiful. And you know what? I think I'm about there. I don't want to go too much, but I do want to be able to see this in the end piece. There we go. Little galaxies. Obviously, we've got those little meteorites as well. Some a few just shooting out of the sun. And again, I think it's just going to add an extra dimension to it, or ruin the piece. I don't think it will. I'm loving the way it looks right now. Let's just add a little bit more in here and a bit more on this one as well. There we go. And I think that is as much as I want to do. I'm loving the way the galaxies look right now. I'm hoping they cure like that. So we're going to let it cure, and then it'd be the final fill layer. So I do want to get it filled over the surface of those planets, which I'm probably going to use a deep pour for, or the deep cast resin from Apex. So we're going to leave this to cure, and I'll see you in a couple of hours, hopefully for the last coat. So here we go, guys, and I'm hoping that this is going to be close to the last step, not quite, but I'm really happy with how it's looking at the minute. So I'm just mixing up some deep pour on the mixer. This is where these mixers really come into their own, when you're mixing large amounts. And I'm only doing 750 ml at the minute. I think I'm going to probably need another 750, because the plan is here. I'm undecided, I'll be honest, as to whether or not I just fill it like normal, or whether I fill it almost up to the top and then dome it slightly by sanding it all around the edge and creating a beautiful dome. So that's something I'm still deciding on at the moment, but I know I'm going to need more resin because I want it to cover these planets. So dead straightforward, put it on the mixer, 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm using the Apex deep cast for this, and it's an amazing deep pour resin 2:1 ratio. So you put 1/3 of your hardener and 2/3 of your resin. There we go. I'm pretty happy that that's mixed up. And don't worry if you've got a few tiny little bubbles in there. Trust me, they will come out, no problem, because this is really good at degassing. There we go. And I've just noticed a couple of bits in there. I don't know if that came off my cup or what it was, but actually I think that'll be quite cool. So anyway, let's get on with this and let's swap these cups over so I don't get resin all over my workspace. I think I must have had something on the inside of that cup though, because I've got almost little, I don't know if you can see, little floaty things in there, which I never get with the resin. So it tells me that something may have been in my cup, which I'm not very happy about, but I've already mixed the resin now. So there's not a lot I can do apart from pour it in and try and pick them out, I suppose. So I'm just going to get rid of this excess resin that's just dripping off this silicone pad. Put this back under. I don't know what they are, but again, it might look kind of cool if we get little, I don't know. Just thinking, have I got something that I can filter it through as I pour it? No. In a word, haven't got a sieve or anything that I think would work. Well, I think we're just going to go with it. And I'm going to probably spend the best part of half an hour picking any bits out or leaving them in as little floaty bits. You might look kind of cool. Almost like debris in the universe. So here we go. And I'm going to start over the planets just to make sure that they're all getting a good covering of this resin. And if I do see any of these floaty bits, I am going to take them out. I don't know what it is. I think it must be residue that was in my cup somehow. And I don't know how, because my cups are kept upside down. But in we go with this beautiful crystal clear resin. Well, and that is the first layer in. And again, I can see a couple of those floaty bits there. But I actually don't mind them. I think it's adding to the effect. So you can see, nowhere near the surface of these planets yet. So I'm going to mix up another 750 ml. But I'm just having a look at these bits that seem to float. And I am going to pick them out, the ones that I can see, because I think I would kick myself if I didn't. There's one. And I don't know what it is. Genuinely, guys. I've never had it before in this resin. So as you can see, it's beautifully crystal clear, pretty much. And we're going to be able to see straight through to those beautiful galaxies that we've created. Just going around the edge because I don't want any bubbles to stick either. And I think I am going to mix up another 750 ml here. Might as well. And then we can just cure it in that one layer. And it is going to take a couple of days. Might even need a little bit more. But I'm loving the piece, so it's definitely worth the investment in the resin. So, and strangely, I think Jupiter and Saturn are sticking out the most. Again, just going to mix up another 750 ml, so that'll be 1.5 litres of this beautiful resin that it's had in. So again, great thing with these measuring cups is you can have a look on the side, and they're reasonably accurate. They're not 100% all the time, but they're close enough, I think, for this. So that's my hardener. In goes the resin, all the way up to the 750. So this will be 1.5 litres worth of resin that I'm pouring in for this top layer. And this is what people need to realise with resin art. If you're doing big pieces like this, the resin costs an absolute fortune because you need a lot of it. I think it may have actually come off this paddle. I don't think I cleaned it off properly, but there we go. So again, just flicking it on, and that can be mixing whilst I'm looking around. And then we're just going to top it up with that other 750 ml. But I'm just having a look around now. I can just see Pluto there, which is great. So Pluto is submerged. But I'm just making sure there's no more of those flakes, whatever they were. I don't want them in. And it's quite hard to see because it's kind of transparent, as you can imagine. So there we go. And then I'm just going to torch it all as well, because nobody likes bubbles in the resin. But again, try not to go too close to the edge. And I can see one of those flakes there. So that's coming out. Look at that. I think it's a little bit of uncured resin from the paddle. Come on, you're not staying in there. Look at that. That's a big piece of uncured resin off my paddle. Are there any other pieces? Let me know if you spot any. I think we're good. Can't see any. And again, it should cure pretty much clear anyway, if it's just resin. But I don't want to risk anything in this piece because, as I say, for me, I'm loving the way it's looking right now. And hopefully it will keep looking like that as well. And the rings of Saturn are going to be interesting to see what they look like as well. Once they're cured, I think that's pretty much mixed. So again, I'm just going to lift this up, let the excess just drip off the paddle for a second, so we're not wasting any. So at the minute, I've got 3 of those planets covered. We've got Pluto covered, I think it's Mars and Mercury, but the rest aren't covered yet. So hopefully this extra layer is just going to help do that. And then we're going to have to wait 2 days for it to cure. And it's whether I go in with another 750 afterwards. Depends how deep I want it, because if I am going to sand it and dome it, I want it to be quite deep. But it's whether I'm going to do that or not. That is the question. What do you guys think? Let me know in comments. Do you think we should try and dome it, and that's a lot of work? Or do you think we should just leave it as it is and keep on filling it? So here we go. So here's that next bit. And always, even if you're using a mixer, just scrape your sides and your bottom just to make sure that it's all thoroughly mixed like that. Beautiful. And I'm hoping that this will be enough now to cover the whole planet. Let's see. In fact, there's still one streak in there, so I'm just going to give it one more stir around. Now I've done the sides, because I don't want to risk any uncured resin going into this piece. Keep on scraping round and then just finishing it off with a stir. I think that's good to go. Let's say there's a few tiny buttons and bubbles in there. I could put it through my debubbler, but I've used this resin before. and I've never had an issue with the bubbles just popping themselves and coming to that surface. So here we go, guys. It's another 750 ml of this beautiful resin, and I still don't think it's going to be enough to quite cover as much as I want. We're almost there, but I think this is going to be another 750 ml. So that means in this layer alone, we will have had, what, 1.5, just over 2 litres. But I'm going to do it. I don't want to leave this piece to chance. I absolutely love it, the way it's looking. So it's going to be an expensive piece, but it's going to be my piece. And I might even try and see if I can get a wood cookie and place it into that cookie. And hopefully this is going to bring me pleasure for years to come, just looking at it. And now I'm just going to skip this part, and you can see me pouring that final bit. This 750, I think, should definitely do it now. Just another 750. There we go. So whilst that's mixing, I'm just going to torch the top again and get rid of any surface bubbles. And again, if we have a few in there, I don't think it'll matter that much, but ideally I don't want them in there. And this is where, for me, that 3D-ness is really coming to life, just looking at those planets popping out. And I'm going to use my silicone tool again and just go around the edge again, making sure that hopefully there's no bubbles. And if they are, they dislodge. And again, just going around the whole thing now. Any on that surface or underneath these planets, which is where I would try and hide if I was a bubble. What's that? That looks like a hair. That can come out as well. See, there's a reason you do this maintenance. I think this is going to be absolutely stunning. One of my favourite pieces by far once we are done. And now I'm just going to slide this across the base. Any bubbles that might be stuck, hopefully it's just dislodging them. And then I'm going to torch it again. And then what I am going to do is come back every half an hour once I've poured this and just check if any more bubbles have surfaced. And if they have, just pop them with the torch, because I want this to stay crystal clear. There we go. I'm just going to let that stand for a second. And I'm hoping that this is the layer that completely covers those planets. There's not a lot to go, but there's still a bit. And I want to make sure those rings are completely submerged, and Jupiter's spot as well. But I do love the way this is looking. But anyway, let's fast forward so you guys haven't got to watch me just staring at this. All right, here we go. And I'm hoping this will be the final layer. We've covered Jupiter at least. And I think we have just covered Saturn as well, but only just. So if I am going to sand this, again, I'm going to have to be really careful if I keep it at this level. Do I go in with one more layer? And the question is whether or not I'm going to dome it. And if I dome it, then it probably needs a bit more. If I don't, then it probably doesn't. What do you guys think? Again, just getting rid of any bubbles that I can see. Going around the edge again. I'm just having a look there. Oh, it's only just covering that ring, literally by 1 mil. And I think I want to sand this, guys, to dome it. And if I do that, there's a risk I'm going to go into that layer. Do we do it? I don't think I need another 750, but maybe another 500 would just do it. Let's do 450. Another 450 mil, because I don't want to regret not doing it, because I'm only ever going to make this piece once. Right, so 150 of the hardener. But let's go 600. So that's 200 mil of the hardener and then 400 of the resin. I'll tell you what, this would make a great table as well. And I don't understand how I've used... I do. And this is definitely going to be the last layer now. So we're just going to pour it in. And I'm going to come back and check probably every 10 minutes or so. There we go. I'm just using the planet to try and disperse any bubbles. But I'm probably going to come back, as I say, because we're getting that depth now, we're getting those bubbles. So if I can break it by doing it on the sun, I'm better off doing it. And there we go. So I'm going to come back every 10, 20 minutes now. And I'm just going to disperse of any bubbles with my torch even. They should all come to the surface over the next couple of hours. And then unfortunately, it's a case of waiting 48 hours for it to cure. And then it's whether I go in and start sanding it or not. Let me know what you think in comments, and I'll see you at the next stage. And here we go. Hopefully almost getting towards the end of this make. I've got a few more ideas yet. So let's demold it. Let's see how it's turned out. It's been a couple of days. Hopefully it's going to demold okay. Oh, it's a heavy piece. Wowzers. This is heavy. Oh my God. But look at this. Absolutely Stunning. Look at that from a side angle. You can just see those planets sinking in. Now, the question I've got is, I thought I had was to sand this down the sides into a dome. And I think that will just add to the effect again. But this is absolutely stunning, but heavy. Let me know what you think at this point. You probably can't because this is a video that I've already put out. But I do want to, and look at the back with the glitter. I think sand this down around those sides and dome it, because I've never done that before. And I just think it'll add an extra effect if we sand it down, dome it, and then add a top coat. But I'm really happy with the results so far. Let me know what you think. Just the 3D-ness of those planets as well. I think it's come out really cool. Even the rings on Saturn, which I wasn't too sure about. Now they're in the resin, I quite like them. So I'm going to get my respirator on and we're going to get sanding, which I hate, but I think it's just going to add to the overall effect of the piece. Let me know what you think. So here we go, guys. After 3 hours of sanding, I've got that lovely rounded edge, which is what I wanted, which I think will just give it a slightly more domed effect. And I'm still hoping that the resin doesn't just drip off and it gives it a slight dome. So yeah, I've wiped it with the alcohol now so it's clean. But before I even think about pouring that final layer, first thing I want to do is think about the back, because I don't want a pain in the bum when it comes to drips and things like that. And look at that glitter, guys. So I've got some cheap knockoff wood glue. I think it's copying a big brand that we all know from Temu. And I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to put it on reasonably thick because I want to be able to just peel it off. So any of those drips that do come down, hopefully will just peel off with the glue. Is the plan. So I'm going to put quite a decent layer on the back, not necessarily all the way around the whole piece, but at least going pretty far in, I think. Look at this. Lovely. And I think when I've done this in the past, it hasn't quite worked because I've not put enough on. So I'm not going to make that mistake this time. And if this saves me sanding those drips down after that last 3 hours of sanding, it's certainly worth me doing. So as you can see, getting the shakes now. I think I've done too much sanding. Quite a thick layer, and it doesn't really move. So I'm just going to get a popsicle stick, lollipop stick, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are in the world, whatever you call it where you are. And I'm just going to push it to the edge around the whole piece. Then we're going to leave this to dry. The glue, which should take anywhere between 3 and 4 hours, I think. And then we're going to pour that final layer. Hopefully what this does, it just creates a bit of a barrier to stop the resin drips coming further down the piece. So here we go. As you can see, I'm not being ultra careful, but I don't want it to drip over the sides after I put all of that work into those sides. And I might add a little bit more anyway at the end of this. I'm just trying to get it to the edges so that any drips, hopefully, will just drip onto this glue and I can just peel them off once the resin's cured. And I'm going to be using a fast cure resin. So hopefully within a few hours, we're going to get to do the finished piece. And then I've got about 10 hours of editing to do, I think, for this video. So do me a favor, if you're liking any of the content that we're doing, any experiments, just do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything and it means the world, you know, it's the only way that we keep growing. And also, if you can and you want to support us even more, just join membership. It's a great way to support the channel. For the cost of a coffee, it allows me to keep trying these new products that we can all keep learning together and doing some more crazy experiments. Again, just pushing it all the way to that edge, all the way around. So I'll see you in about 3 or 4 hours once this glue has dried. You can use PVA glue as well, guys. So if you've not got wood glue, you've got PVA glue, that should work just fine. But yeah, I'm going to carry on doing this because this is probably the most boring part of the video, and I'll see you guys in a few hours. So here we go, and after what seems like an eternity, that wood glue on the base has finally dried, and it took 2.5 days, guys. So either don't lay it on as thick as I did, or don't use wood glue. Maybe try PVA instead. But this should be, hopefully, this final layer in this beautiful universe, and it's 2 weeks worth of work in the making, and I'm just hoping this is going to work. So I'm going to be using the Quantum Apex resin, which fast sets in 1 to 2 hours, because do you know what, I've waited long enough for this. I don't want to be waiting anymore, so I'm just going to pour it in, and I think I'm going to go with 4 ounces here for this top coat. I shouldn't need a lot. Let's start with pouring it in, and it's exactly the same as any other resin. You just pour in both parts. The only thing is we're only going to get about 10-15 minutes work time with this because it does cure so fast. In fact, I'm going to go with 5 ounces. I just want to make sure that I've got enough to cover all of this surface and go around the sides. So I'm going to do 2.5 of the part and 2.5 of the part B. Now, whenever you're using resins like this, you've got to realize they're going to be thick. So you're going to see a few bubbles in there. And I wouldn't put it through a debubbler because you'll get twice as many bubbles. And what you need to remember is they've thought about this when they've made the resin. So those bubbles will naturally dissipate and go anyway. I will probably torch it at the end as well, just to be safe. There we go. So that is 2.5 of each. And now, as always, I'm just going to stir it around for a couple of minutes. And then hopefully we're going to be ready to pour. And you can really feel the thickness, guys, compared to a normal resin. And it's because, do you know what? It should set in an hour. So hopefully in an hour, it should be touch cured. So hopefully I don't have to wait all day to get the final pictures of this. And then I can start on the 3 hours of editing. But you know what? It's been a fun make. It's been something different, which I don't think I've seen anybody do quite in the same way before. And hopefully it's just gonna be an amazing piece. So again, just stir your resin around the same as you would any other resin. And I'm hoping that this Quantum will just give it that nice, glossy, shiny finish to finish this piece off. But do make sure that you've thoroughly mixed your resin, especially when it's a really thick one like this. You need to make sure you're scraping those sides and the bottom of your cup so that that resin is thoroughly mixed. It's the same as any other resin in that way. And try not to do it too fast, because if you do it too fast, you're just going to introduce loads more bubbles, which will give you a little bit more work to do with the torch once it's done. But I'm hoping that this will just bring back that shine. And as you can see at the minute, it looks like it's cloudy because of the amount of sanding. And that was just over 3 hours worth of sanding just to get this edge effect, which I wanted on it. And I don't know if it was worth it, to be honest. We're going to find out. And you can let me know in comments as well. But do me a favor, guys. These projects take an awful lot of time and effort. If you like them, do me a favor and just like and subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, but it helps support the channel, helps us keep on growing. And if you can, you know what, join membership. It is a great way to support the channel. And for the price of a coffee, you get entered into that monthly prize draw and you get early access to all of my videos before the general public. So it's worth doing. So again, just mixing it all around. And I think we're pretty much there. It looks crystal clear to me in this resin. So as I say, this is that Quantum resin and it's my first time using it, which probably most of you would say is a huge risk when I've spent all of this time on this piece. I would probably agree in that fact that yes, it is a risk, but I love the Apex resins and I don't think we'll have any issues. So I'm just really making sure that part A and part B are thoroughly mixed. So just giving it one last stir around before we start the top coat. And I'm hoping that I've done enough. I think 5 ounces should be enough to just cover all of this and hopefully give us enough to just drip over those edges and give us that final beautiful shiny glossy finish. I am so excited for this. You do not know how excited I am. And this piece, as I say, it's been a lot of work and hopefully this final result will give me what I've been waiting for, which is that final beautiful look, shiny, glossy resin. So all I'm going to do, I've put baby wipes around the edge because I want to help the cleanup wherever I can. And I'm just going to start in the center from a bit of a height and we're going to pour. Hopefully there's going to be enough to go all the way to these edges. And in fact, what I'm going to do is just pour some of this around those edges as well. And then we're going to spread it. And I can already see through to the piece now, which is exciting. He says, I'm just going to scrape my cup because I don't want to waste any of this resin either. And then we're going to spread it all the way around the sides and around the piece. And hopefully it's going to bring back that beautiful shine that we had originally that I got rid of in the sanding process. So there's the resin. And now I'm just going to use this stick to move it from side to side and hopefully make sure we've got an even coat going all the way around this beautiful solar system. And let me know what you think in comments. Is this going to work? Are we going to have an amazing piece or not? And I'm trying to make sure it's spread evenly before I use my gloved hand in a minute, just with the stick. And then this is the fun bit for me. Let's get messy, let's use our hands and let's just move it around, helping move it around those edges. And it does help if you've got a reasonably level surface for this, guys. And it is a thick resin. Just to feel it on my fingers, it feels thicker than probably any other resin I've ever used, but I think that should really help with this effect. And now I just want to start to encourage it to just go around these edges. Again, just using that gloved hand, and hopefully this is just going to help coat it all so we get that lovely glossy shine going all the way around. And I don't want to waste any of this resin either, so I'm just encouraging it a tiny bit around these sides and just using my gloved hand, hopefully not missing any bits. Again, I'm just going to come over and maybe I've gone a bit under on the resin, but I think probably okay because it's still spreading. And I don't want to miss any bits here because then it could create a weird effect. And I don't want fish eyes or anything like that when all of the effort has gone into making this piece to get it to where it is. So again, just going around the edge, making sure we've got that beautiful shine going all the way around. And that's the bit that I'm most conscious of because I can't see all the way around this piece. I could probably turn it around, which I am going to do in a minute, just to make sure that I've completely got that surface. I think I have now, but don't forget we've only probably got another 5 minutes of working time with this. So again, just going to go around, and this is a beautiful shine, guys. I wish you could see it in real life, but that is absolutely stunning. Now what I'm going to do is just pick the whole piece up, turn it around and make sure that I've got the edge on the other side as well, because as I say, I want this to be beautiful, rounded, not missed anywhere. I just want to make sure that it's an even spread of this beautiful resin. And because we've done those corners now, it should just give us that beautiful glossy finish going all the way around without any breaks or anything like that, what you might get from a straight edge. And I'm pretty happy that that is now covered. So now all I'm going to do is get my torch and torch off any excess bubbles, which I don't think there are actually any. So it seems like a great resin for this, guys. And then just around the sides, should also help it self-level and spread. And that's it. Now I'm going to leave this for 1 to 2 hours. I'll come back, we'll get you some final shots, and that should be it. And I'm not getting much drip off either with this, so it's actually a really good resin for top coating, if you can see. And maybe I didn't need to do all of that gluing in the end, but it's looking stunning at this point. Let's hope it cures that way, and I'll see you guys in roughly a couple of hours, and we should be done. So I'll see you then. So I'm in the process of editing the video and I've realized I've not given you guys a close-up yet of the finished product. But here it is, that beautiful universe. Galaxies came out perfect, beautiful shine on it. There's the sun, there's all the planets. Absolutely stunning. Let me know what you think in comments, and sorry this has been a longer video than usual, but I wanted to get all the steps in, and this for me, it just shows you that resin can be just art. It doesn't have to have a function, and this is a one-of-a-kind piece, and you've probably seen the reflection here in my living room, but I absolutely love the way this turned out. There's nothing I would change. Got the beautiful galaxies in there, the beautiful twinkles of the stars, and I think it's one of my best pieces. Let me know what you think in comments. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.